Hi everybody, it's been a rough few days for me. I really didn't want to do this video, but a part of me is telling me that I have to do it. This morning early, someone sent me a voice note that my biological father recorded. I feel it's somebody in his house, his wife or his son or whatever, that encouraged him to do it. Whoever it was, I really don't care. But in the voice note, he said that he was a good father to me. He always encouraged me. He was there. He was supportive and all these different things. And he doesn't know what he ever did to me. And he doesn't know what he did to make me disown him. I'm like, what is going on here? And all of this stemmed because I made a tribute to someone who was significant or who was really good to me at a pivotal time in my life. And this narcissist has taken it and tried to twist it to make it about him. It's about what he didn't do or what he did as a parent. So all of a sudden now, my video is supposed to be trying to make it seem like I had bad parents. Well, since you can't recall and since you don't know what you did, I'm going to refresh your memory, Mr. Chase, because we haven't spoken in over 20 years. We haven't spoken. We haven't had a conversation. So why would you think that now is the time to send a voice note out about me? And you think that that is going to silence me? You really don't know Stephanie Chase. You don't know me. So let me refresh your memory. And for those who never grew up in Parishland, this is my story. My first traumatic experience occurred when I was 5 years old. I was outside playing with my sister. My father was building a wall. Back then, in order to be progressive, if you lived in a board house, you had to add on a piece of wall and build until the whole structure became wall. That's how it was done. If you had a pit toilet, you had to move from that pit toilet and have indoor toiletry and indoor plumbing. So we were outside playing. My mother came out like, why do you have these girls, these little children out here so playing by that wall and you up there is dangerous? He's like, no, them alright, nothing can happen. By the time he said nothing can happen, he off balance from the wall. The wall that he was building collapsed. All the blocks fell on my sister. I was able to jump away in time, or I probably would have been crushed too. My sister was rushed to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital where she died on the operating table. That was my first traumatic experience. And I don't think that my parents ever got counseling for it. I don't think my parents ever dealt with the trauma or stopped blaming themselves for it. But however or whatever happened, I was the one left alive. She was, she was beautiful. Beautiful, fair skin, long hair, all this. At some point in time, my father said he don't think she the his and all sorts of stuff. But life was never the same after she died. And I was very sharp-witted and smart from an early age. I could read by the time I was 4. I could spell like a boss. My penmanship was really good at a young age. And from 5 all through primary school, even in secondary school, I realized my father could not read. And it became my responsibility to read for him, to write for him, dictate his reports and all these different things while he was working at the MTW. Eventually, he worked his way up as a supervisor and, self-made man. Give him credit for that, But he never dealt with his own trauma. And one of the things that I remember is that him being sent back to Barbados at 17 by his mother because he threatened to burn up all of them in a flat in Watford, England, and he was sent back to Barbados. He has said things like he never knew his biological father, but the man who claimed to be his father, I was told, raped his mother. You see the trauma? You see the cycle? I just want y'all to understand. And the man who took him as a father used to beat his woman to a pulp. And his brother who lived behind used to beat his partner as a pulp. Further up the road, we had a family with a woman and a man. She had multiple children for him, and he used to beat her to a pulp. This was the norm. So this was not abuse. This was just the way that things were done back then, right? Okay. All through secondary school, I was being beaten, and I was being told, you will not amount to anything. You're gonna be nothing like your mother. You're going to be a whore like so-and-so. And my my mentality was like, you got to prove this man wrong. You got to prove this man wrong. You got to do things to make him proud. Prove this man wrong. At some point in time, the beatings can stop. Oh, no, the beatings didn't stop at all. Because when the beatings got too hot and my mother and I had to leave, we would go to her mother's house in Bournesland. And then we were subjected to a different level of abuse where you know, she was told, you married the man, but entire to marry, that's your husband, you gotta go back home. So when we overstayed our welcome, the submission came. We had to apologize. Sorry, can we come back home? Can we return? Can we come back home? We don't have anywhere to go. And of course, he would say yes. And we would go back home. And the cycle would repeat itself. And it repeated itself all through me turning 22. I won Miss Barbados World and I was still being beaten. But of course I couldn't say those things in public back then. I had to make it seem like I came from a wholesome, upstanding, supportive family. Meanwhile though, those who knew me knew what was happening. The people in parish land knew what was happening. The people who went to church with my mother knew what was happening, and everybody turned a blind eye. Nobody said anything. It was the norm. It was the norm. You hear what I tell you? My father had 2 children during being married to my mother from 2 separate women. The one he is married to now, a big 7-day, in the big 7-day church. Every Saturday she going church, but fornicating with a married man, getting pregnant for a married man, and encouraging the married man to be killed, his wife and the child. Because you wanted to be Mrs. and you wanted the house, and we had to go at all costs. So it amazes me now that Mr. Chase is trying to pretend like he was the perfect father because I paid tribute to a person and he felt I should be singing his praises. Why? Why do you think that it should be about you? You've never apologized for the things that you did, and you don't have to, because I have forgiven you. I learned, you know, in my mid-20s that if I allowed the way I felt or allowed the trauma to go unaddressed, that I would not be able to form healthy relationships. And, you know, it is still a struggle to form healthy relationships, because your fathers are supposed to be the ones to protect you. Your fathers are supposed to be the models that you use to pick a life partner. Your fathers are the ones who are supposed to treat their daughters as though they were precious and, you know, protect them from the world, not subject them to emotional, physical abuse. So I found my way to therapy and counseling. So that is why I can confidently speak my truth. And I really don't care who is upset. And I really don't care who is offended. Because this is my truth. And it is my right to tell it. Because there are many people out there who believe that they should hide behind closed doors. You're beautiful and all these things. And yes, my daughter this and my daughter that in public. And then behind closed doors, you'll be killing them. Well, oh, I got chopped on my foot. That I get chopped with a hoe from my father. I get people beat with electric wire, frying pan, pots, broomsticks. I get all sorts of things get pelted at me, and that I got beaten with. The last thing my father did, eventually he separated the house in compartments. He was in one side, my mother was in the middle, and I was in the back. And this was after I came back from Miss World, and I had graduated from BCC. I had applied to University of the West Indies, and I had just completed my first year with a 3.9 grade point average, which was poor in my opinion, in my first year. And then, you know, what happened after that? He had a conversation with a neighbor who was abusive as well to his partner. They know divorce. I ain't calling the names, but people from Parish, I know what he's talking about. And he said, well, she going to school for a time. She should look for a job and pay you rent. Which triggered me, because I remember in primary school, I walked all through Parish Land asking for sponsorship for a sponsor walk card that I had gotten for school. And the sponsor, within a week, the sponsor walk card was filled because everybody loved me. And I was so mannerly and so polite. When it came time to take the sponsor walk sheet to school, my father said, tell them that it lost. Pick sense from foolishness and tell me what part you think the money went. You understand? When it came time to paying for my CXCs for secondary school in 1995, I was talking to a guy who was going to Queen's College at the time. Just, you know, a little crush and stuff like that. And I was telling him, well, I don't know how I get into resources. I ain't got no money to pay. My father gave me the money and my mother ain't got it to give me. He met me in town, gave me $40. And that only goes to show how long we were paying $40 to be entered for CXCs. Nicholas Quinton will always have my gratitude. He broke my heart, but he will always have my gratitude because it is because of him that I was able to do my CXCs. And when I got back my results, you know who was pomp-setting about my results? The same body who'd be killing me behind closed doors. Back to the apartment when he said that I should look for a job and pay him rent. And I said, no, if I got to pay rent, I can pay a stranger because you tell me that I can live here and finish UE. And when I catch myself, then, you know, I will pay you rent and stuff like that. Like, what am I going to do with all this furniture that I want and all of these different things, the computer that I bought to help me finish UE and stuff? You know, you can find a job or you can left from in here. So he took off the windows and the doors. He boarded up all the windows with galvanized sheets. And all of my stuff was exposed to the elements. I got off the 10:30 bus, 10:30 Fair Valley bus one night, and Charles met me at the bus stop. Anybody that lived in Parishland or grew up in Parishland back in the 90s, know Charles, right? Charles was one of them men that used to be on the block. And Charles showed me $500 that my father paid him to carry all the things in the apartment. He said, Stephanie, look what your father paid me to carry, to get you out that apartment, carry all the things in that apartment, get you out, he want you out. He said, listen to me, leave from Parishland. Get out of Parishland. That man ain't got nothing good in his heart for you. So you know what I did? I called a friend I had at the time. She was renting a house in Calendars Court. And I asked her, you know, and I thought we were really close. I said, well, you know what? My father want me out. I didn't want to sell all my furniture. You could keep some for me. She said, no. I said, all right, no problem. I sell everything and I kept the computer. And I moved in with my mother and I stayed there for like 6 months. I slept on the couch, you know. And as with some parents, they're moody. They didn't want the lights on after 8 o'clock. They didn't want the computer on at 5 o'clock in the morning. She opened the windows on me and all these different things. And I said, Lord, I don't know how I can get through this, but you gotta make a way. And the job at Garrison advertised and I applied for it. And I got the job. And the December of 2005, I moved out of Parish. I did not even tell my mother I was leaving. I left with my clothes and the computer and I rented an apartment in Chapman's. And I went and I bought a 3-seater that opened out into a couch from Standard for $800. And that was my furniture until I could afford to buy a bed and until I could afford to buy a stove and a fridge. But I was comfortable because I was on my own. And that taught me that I should never be in a position where somebody tells me, left from boat here. I never wanted to be in a position where somebody can tell me, I want you no more, and I ain't got nowhere to turn to. So thank you. Because when I saw how you treated my mother, it showed me that I needed to be stronger and wiser. And when I realized that during your divorce, everything was in your name, and she had claim to nothing, even having been married to you from 1981. She got nothing but a couple $1,000. And you kept the house and you kept the land and you kept everything. And she was to start from scratch. It taught me that whatever I had, I needed to own on my own. So I rented and I bought land and I rented and I built a house. And sometimes I walk through this house and I go like, you girl, you should be proud of yourself, yeah. Because that man tell you that you didn't give me nothing. Little most that man had you to be living on the streets. You understand? So sometimes don't let what you see in public fool you. Many of us don't speak our real truths because we don't want people to know, and then we don't want to embarrass the parents and stuff like that. But since Mr. Chase put it out there, I needed to address it. Not to, you know, not to make him apologize, because I don't need any apologies from him. I have forgiven him, and that is why I can speak my truth, and that is why no one can silence me. And I can confidently say, I endured a lot and I made it. I may not have the ideal family. I may not have that emotional connection to parent, to mother or father. You know, me and my mother ain't as close as we should be. We're cordial. But I do not have that emotional connection. You probably would never see me posting about family or anything like that. Because the reality is that my friends are closer to me than family members. So I say that to say that we have the power to break the cycle of abuse. We have to deal with it. We have to not be afraid to speak about it. We have to seek counseling, because these things affect the way that you interact with people. These things affect the way that you form relationships. And only when you can speak your truth are you truly free. So to the people who say honor your mother and father so that your days may be long in the land, I did not ask to be born into an abusive and dysfunctional family. But God has blessed me. I will not be disrespectful or rude, but I will speak my truth. So my days will be long in the land. And the Bible also says, provoke not your children to wrath. So don't provoke me to speak about things that you would like to remain hidden, because I will speak about them. And I will encourage other people who have endured physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, to speak about their traumas and speak about their truths. And I will also encourage them to get help. And to those of you who are parents, your job is to protect your children, love your children, nurture your children. Be the examples of the types of people that they should want in their lives. They should not have to seek that from anywhere outside the home. And if they have to do that, it means that you have failed as parents. And that is your burden to bear. Not mine, not anybody else's. Break the cycle. Don't be silenced. Speak your truth. And speak it proudly. God bless. And that's it for me.